tell us about it.
Oh, I'm very excited about it. This is my second book, and a wonderful labor of love. The title is Hope Now, and the subtitle is Peace, Healing, and Justice When the Kingdom Comes Near. And the premise of the book is that through my 13 years here at Buckner, I've never met people that we serve who were willing to postpone hope. They were ready for it then. And so I've tried to put a sense of urgency on people need hope now.
What do you mean by postpone hope?
Well, it's usually the people that we serve through foster care and adoption. The child has been separated from his or her home, and there's a sense of desperation of needing a place to live, and that's traumatic in and of itself. Then there are single moms through, and sometimes dads through family pathways where they've gone through a tough time and maybe struggle economically, on the verge of homelessness, in some cases domestic violence. So they're coming from a bad situation, and hope is like the first thing on the list. They're looking for, is life going to get any better, or is this what I have to expect the rest of my life? And children that are sometimes abused, abandoned, or neglected, we start with hope that it's going to be better, it's going to be okay, and that's the hope of the gospel. So I take it off of Luke chapter 10, and it's a missionary commissioning. Jesus sends the 72, the 36 2x2 teams, and he says, when you knock on the door, say peace to this house. So there's the first object, is peace. That in a world of conflict, in a world where people don't have peace, we're saying the Prince of Peace is available to offer peace. And then we move down that passage. He says, when you enter a city and they give you something to eat, heal the sick who are there. So then healing is another aspect. And the word for healing there in the original language is therapeuo. So it's not, we have lots of examples of the instantaneous healings that Jesus did. The woman touched the hem of his garment and her bleeding stopped. The little girl, Jairus' daughter, Jesus said, wake up, and she got up. She was dead. She woke up. Lazarus, he calls his name out. He comes out of the tomb. The blind man, the paralytic, and the list goes on. But in this passage, it's therapeuo, which is non-instantaneous. It's where we get the word therapy. So you have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. You might have psychotherapy in a counseling session. But those sessions are generally multiple sessions. It's not a one-time deal. It's a process. It's a relationship. And sometimes you make 2 steps of progress and 3 steps back. And so that's the kind of work that Buckner does. It's more a process orientation. It's a relationship, and we stick with people until the healing sets in.
That is such a fascinating insight. I'm just getting ready to start Greek on Tuesday, so I'm eating this up. And I know that this speaks volumes to our listeners, because we think that the gift of healing is always miraculous.
Right.
But we forget that when one person sits down in front of another person and makes eye contact with them and says, how are you? And then listens, that's therapeuo.
Sure.
That is instigating healing and becoming an agent of healing and paying attention to. And I'm of the mind that there's even a tremendous ministry just in eye contact these days.
Right. Just it's based on a relationship. Even the Samaritan person, the Good Samaritan that found the wounded person, he sort of took responsibility, developed a relationship, and there was an accountability of checking back to make sure that the healing was taking place. In our fast microwave world, not everything is instantaneous, and the top of the list is relationships. They take time. It's the ministry of presence. It's incarnational. You have to show up. You have to be there. That's what Jesus did for us, right? He came into our world and he lived among us, is what John says, chapter 1. So I think that's critical, that we offer healing, and it can be instantaneous, it can be through medication, it can be through therapy sessions, or it can be through listening, conversations. All those objects employed can bring healing as long as the healer is there, right? Jehovah Rapha, the God who heals, and we believe he goes with us. The last part of that verse is, he says, and tell them that the kingdom of God is near. And so I did a little bit of digging in that, and when you see the book, a lot of people think the kingdom is like when we all get to heaven, when the roll is called up yonder, and all the songs we sang, that it's something we look forward to. Certainly not now in this terrible world, but I saw that Jesus did bring the kingdom when he healed people right there on the spot now. So I'm trying to say through this book, we can have the kingdom now. Granted, it's not all that it can be or will be, but if the King is here and he lives in me, his name is Jesus, he lives in you, then he brings the kingdom near. The idea is that in the original language is that the kingdom is near, it hovers, it's hovering over you, your family, your children, your friendships, your relationships, your church. And you know, the King is here, and we have to figure out what he wants done. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So that's the idea for the kingdom coming near. And when you and I do our work, Rebecca, you and Jeff and others on the radio ministry, even though it's on the air, your presence is felt, and the kingdom comes near when we hear you guys serve. And when we do our work, when our staff goes out and works with families and children, and when our volunteers collect shoes and put shoes on, they're bringing the kingdom here because they represent the King. So that's, I get fired up about that. So it's pretty exciting.